Geoff, we'll start with you. Go ahead and give us tell us who you are and tell us how you use outdoor Wi-Fi.
Absolutely. My name is Geoff Turner with Elevate Technology Group based in Oregon. We service Oregon, Washington, and Hawaii as our primary locations. We were given the opportunity to test the new Wi-Fi 6 outdoor units in an area that had been struck with fire disaster Labor Day weekend of last year. During that disaster, we helped bring some internet back in the area, and that got us in touch with the local track, which was really a place that a lot of people went to escape the fire that went through the area. The first major event back at that track was one that required connectivity. It was one that was related to the Olympic trials that was going on in Eugene, Oregon. And there was an extra day at the end of that could come out and provide benefit to the local community and to that track. And so our job was to bring in wireless internet and distribute that to the vendors and to the spectators. This area really had no noise, really clean RF-wise because there wasn't much left over after the fire that was there. But things started to come back and be built back at that point. Our goal again was to service the vendors and the spectators at one end of the track. So we took two of these access points. We engineered wireless for that one end of the track, and we were surprised to find that the coverage and the antenna design in these APs actually covered the whole track and covered the end-to-end on that. So we were able to have well over 100 people connected to that network and provide well over 100 megs of traffic to those participants.
Wow. And Geoff, I'll come back to you in a minute. I want to ask you some questions about that because I think that you packed a lot into that. But let's come back to you in a minute here. Let's introduce Chaz and Chaz, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your deployments with this technology and how you approach the outdoor Wi-Fi.
Sure. Chaz Hager with North River IT. We're a managed service provider based in North Dakota. We have clients in Texas and Alaska in addition to our local market. And as part of addressing an outdoor issue, we had an agricultural rural setting where someone needed outdoor coverage. And basically, a lot of these locations are without adequate cell phone coverage. They may have it, it might be spotty. And they have one of the frequent issues in a setting like that would apply to other aspects are these outbuilding concepts where you've got kind of a core main building where the service might come into, but you have a number of surrounding buildings that were either built or constructed where there was no design or thought around telecommunication type connectivity, especially modern telecommunication type or IP connectivity to these facilities. And so that creates a challenge because to properly cover the outbuildings, you typically need a lot of different pieces of hardware to make that work properly. And in this particular case, simply using the XB2T, meaning the outdoor Wi-Fi 6 AP, we were able to get coverage that truly surpassed our expectations. In this particular case, we actually got adequate coverage on the inside of the building when that was not our primary objective. This is a typical steel type building that's known for removing any sort of radio signal and making for real challenging Wi-Fi conditions. And so that was a nice surprise as part of this installation.
So both of you guys, Geoff and Chaz, you both talked about really kind of data access networks, but in these days, so that's probably your first approach, right? So Geoff, you mentioned about providing Wi-Fi coverage for the teams that are there at that Olympic track event, and they need to get online, talk to their organizers and different people, just sending text messages, sending emails, checking things, looking things up online. What else was going on there though, Geoff? I mean, because that's your first thing you think about with Wi-Fi. But what else goes on besides just at that track event, besides just data access for the teams?
Yeah, absolutely. So data access for the team is obviously important for their communications. And to kind of add to what Chaz had mentioned there is cell service in this area is almost non-existent as well, right? So that first line of communication really is relying on Wi-Fi at this area, and sounds like at Chaz's location. But that expanded to not just team and vendor access, that expanded to spectator access because people didn't have the ability to do their normal evening FaceTimes from the event, right, to family at home, or communicate with basic things like Twitter and talk about how the event was going. On top of that, the wireless network that was located there for the camera crew to live stream was having some issues. So this network also supported the live stream of the cameras that were there. So the cameras that were down on the field, as well as doing interviews in the center of the track and the sidelines. So it was a lot to put into a new piece of equipment, but it worked fantastic.
Oh, that's great that you were able to actually provide that extra level of service. Did you plan for that, or was that something just happened?
No, that was something that just happened. We were asked to only provide it for vendor access and the teams themselves, and provide some internet access to the live stream, but not actually provide the Wi-Fi network that they were going to run on. Wow.
Well, I'm glad you were there. I'm glad you were there. I'm glad you were on site with the right equipment to be able to provide that and get that streaming access. So what that does is really, that's the world we live in now, right? Social media, streaming, live online streaming. It really enables any of these kinds of events or organized events to really reach a much larger audience. And I tell you what, Olympics are an important thing, and people want to see what's happening. They want to be in touch and be involved. And so I'm glad you guys were able to do that. All right. So anything else that you guys were able to do? Anything unexpected positive or negative happen there? What else? Anything else happen?
I think the biggest surprise out of the deployment, right, was the coverage, right? And antenna design is really important, right? And before I had really understood more about the product and stuff, right? It was, hey, let's get this out there. We're on a timeline, right? And the goal was not, again, to cover the whole field or the whole area. But that was the biggest surprise to me, right? Is understanding that coverage, and not just the coverage of sending it to my device, but also the receive back on it. So there definitely was a big surprise there, which allowed us to feel comfortable with opening it up to the public.